IT service management team. Scott Knox is really the master of disaster, the master of ceremonies today, taking us through. I'll be adding a little bit of color as we go through here. Scott actually has the presentation, so he'll be running that as we go through here. We're going to be talking about HP and the Intelligent Service Desk. So it's kind of it also includes updates and some strategy stuff associated with our service and portfolio management set of products, and we'll be specifically looking at some of the IT service management parts of that. So the Service Manager and Service Anywhere. Scott, do you want to give me the next slide since you have the deck? All right, and Scott and I are both from HP. This is kind of part of the extended Vivid Special Interest Group for Service Management, but we're running this today. And so next slide. And thanks, Scott. Now, we would normally be hosted by Laura Walker, who is hopefully well known to everybody that's on the phone here today. Unfortunately, Laura came down sick. I think all the bad weather in the upper Midwest finally got her. So we're wishing Laura a quick recovery. But Laura's a great resource if you don't know her. She's a Vivid director and a key member of the service management community. So we'll go. And I think then you're going to see Scott and I. Oh no, you're not going to see Scott and I quite yet. So this is a live session. It is being recorded. Everybody will be able to have access to that. On the next slide, you'll be able to see where you can type in questions. So let's go there. And it just gives you, we will be taking questions as we go through the session, primarily at the end. So on a lot of these, we do have an hour and 20 minutes allotted for the whole session, and often that we do get good Q&A. So definitely put them in there. And so we'll keep on going, Scott. Here we are. So Scott, I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of kick it off here, and then we'll go back and forth.
Okay, so let me kick off or jumpstart our session. This is not me. For those of you who know me, you would be going, wait. And it's not Chuck either, and it's not Laura. So we'll talk. You'll get to see pictures of us here in a second. Our topic today is how to get the Intelligent Service Desk. What does that mean to you, and how can you build one? What's the value props, and so forth. Okay. And Chuck, did you have a question about this slide? You were asking me something.
I was asking Scott if the spelling was purposeful or intended there, and it is, but Scott has to kind of let us know what the intention was.
So and actually to frame up part of the conversation and part of the dialogue of an intelligent service desk, one of the things that we have historically noted in service management, and Chuck and I will talk about our backgrounds in a second, but one of the things that we see is that to use the service desk yesterday, and in most cases today, the user has to actually know stuff. And as an example, they would need to know how to spell Intelligent Service Desk correctly in order to use the service desk. And one of the topics we'll look at is how do we break that paradigm? Because a tool that expects a user to behave in a certain way is not very friendly and is certainly not the directions we want to take. So we'll look at this more fully, but yes, it was very purposeful that we had the Intelligent Service Desk spelled in this interesting Scott-like kind of way. Okay, so here are, wait, that's not Chuck and I. Okay, so there should be a polling question. Does anybody have the polling question here?
Here it comes, Scott. I will launch it here.
Okay.
Great. So the polling question is, who are these guys? And you've got 4 great choices: Bob and Doug, the McKenzie brothers, Bill Murray and Eddie Murphy, Jake and Elwood, or Madonna and Miley Cyrus.
and I can't see them, so I will let you tell me when you have a clear vision and
I can see him, Scott. There, if you click on polls, you'll see him. And there's a surprising number of people that do think it's Madonna and Miley, but
this is a good one. All right, looks like the votes are coming to an end. I'll close it and launch the results here. See what we have here. There you go, Chuck.
Yeah, whatever the wrecking ball. So if the wrecking ball was on there, then I think that would have even tilted it more.
Would have made it even better.
Jake
okay,
and Elwood.
Obviously, this is not Scott and Chuck, and so this is Scott and Chuck. And so I'll introduce myself. I'm Scott Knox. Hopefully all of you know me or know of me, and hopefully that's not a horrible thing. I have been doing IT for nearly 40 years. I've been doing service management, service manager, and service center since 1996, and been the SM product manager since 2000. Well, that's, of course, lovely. Chuck?
Yep, and you know, we put this onto us. I want to make one disclaimer because I was at the doctor's yesterday, and as always, you know, what do they say? They say you could lose some weight, and we took a 4:3 kind of ratio and extended that to 16:9. So I am, Scott and I are both looking more plump than we normally would, but that's not really what you wanted to hear about with regards to this. I am part of the, again, the product marketing team on the IT service management program. Have been working on this for a number of years now. My background is more along the operations side, though, and I got into the service desk business about 10 years ago as we were looking at control objectives and compliance-related stuff. So compliance and audit have a fond spot in my heart from that. And then thinking of Jake and Elwood, I have a lot of Chicago connections, and I'm always happy to go back there. So there you go, Scott. Back to you.
Okay. So the next slide here, this is the framework. This is an interesting communication vehicle that I've started using, and basically our presentation today is a couple of we're going to look at considerations for the intelligence service desk. What does that mean? How would we define it? What might the tools in an intelligence service desk look like? And we will include some roadmap presentations around Service Manager. But the roadmaps are not designed as a sales pitch. These are really, this session is really designed to give you something new to think about and new directions and strategies. We will also not be talking in technical details and depth. We'll do that in other sessions if necessary, but for this prezzo, it's really designed to be much higher level. We will look at some analyst insights. We'll look at slides, demo, content. The demos will come out of HP Service Anywhere. And then we will look at the slides that tell us where we're trying to go. We will not be talking about specific timelines, and as unfortunate as it seems, I was forced to take the car chases out of my presentation. The desired outcome is always an important part of a presentation in my mind. What we need to be able to tell you is why are you watching this session? What can we expect from this session? And our agenda is to give you the information that will help you plan for your future 1 to 5 years down the road for service delivery and help you deal with some very complex IT landscape changes that we see coming. It takes me to my next slide, which is a reference to this Gartner Gartner article about the top 10 technology trends in 2014. Now, I don't believe that Gartner intended to draw the picture to look this bleak, and but with my experience and where I believe we are in IT, the pressures on the IT teams and the business, for that matter, are significant, and there are a lot of them. And so Gartner pointed out these high-level impacts, right? Mobile devices and proliferation, and I kind of take mobile devices and extend it and say proliferation of everything. There's thousands of anything, millions of these things, and so forth. How do I make that stop? Yeah. Then we have all of these other mobile applications. How's that going to change my landscape and so forth, right? Everything in the internet and intranets and so forth, and so forth. And so in this Gartner article, and you can see the reference there to the ID, we can include that in the follow-up mails if necessary. They do a really good job of painting this landscape picture that's very complex and in many cases very scary. But one of the things that I will point out, Scott's point of view, that they might have missed in the discussion is this topic. And basically, the security implications of all of this are non-trivial. What does that mean? And so I just wanted to add that. I've actually heard of people starting up their security operations centers as well as their network operations centers and so forth to deal with this. But the bottom line is you have a very challenging and complex world to live in, and we want to help you get there.
Hey, Scott, one just thing I'd throw out there, thinking of the previous slide, and you don't have to move on, but if you look at, when we talk about intelligent service desk, there are going to be a handful of themes that are going to pop up as we go through this, and it's, the whole notion of being able to access the information from an increasing number of different devices, a number of different places. That's clearly, a trend. The whole thing around service brokering is definitely going to come into play. So just kind of also foreshadowing some of the things that we'll be talking about as you go through here, that whole kind of internet everything, and just some of the changes on consumption models. And also, I think Scott already mentioned, we'll go into it a little bit here, just changing expectations about the complexity and how you interact with the system. All things that go into the presentation here today.
Okay, and Chuck, I am not, I don't have access to the mail that has the polling questions. So can you trigger them for me where they're supposed to show up?
Scott, there's actually one ready for right now. Would you like me to launch that?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go. And you want to go back a slide, I believe.
There you go.
And while this is getting launched, it's really simple. There's something out on the internet yesterday about a well-known America's retailer, and they might be going international, but very well known here in the U.S., that suffered a very well-known security breach right before the Christmas holidays, and they are in the market for a new CIO. So I guess that's not necessarily surprising. And I think it's the results are pretty overwhelming here, and I'm sure the few people that disagree probably have a few other ones that are, key things that belong on the list. So.
Okay, great. And Chuck, I'm going to share the results here. So, how many agree this is a reasonable picture of stress?
Yeah,
92%.
And Chuck actually said something interesting there, and we realize that all of us in the IT business are basically basing our careers on our ability to understand this complexity and deal with it. And Chuck's point about, if somebody's looking for a new CIO, I mean, that's the threat we all deal with. So we want to help you with that. We want to be a trusted advisor as you move through that part of your your day jobs. Okay, so we should be now in this slide, which talks about kind of the world we have lived in, which is the old style of IT. And when I say that, Chuck actually made a statement to me about this, and we have to be careful to say it's not about the wrong style of IT. It's just the style of IT that we have today, and it's how people think and how people do things. Is that a fair statement, Chuck? Is that what you were asking me to?
Sure enough. My statement here, we'll look at kind of some classic ways of doing things, and then also some emerging trends, and the whole intelligent service desk of manipulating data and new ways of manipulating knowledge or automation are just kind of more forward-leaning, and there's just a whole continuum there. And I like the good addition there on not the right or wrong way. It's just we have some changing demands out in the market.
And so then the style of IT that we have today, and the way we've done things, and the tooling capabilities that have been in place for us have been limited in a number of different ways, right? We've had our reliance upon classic SQL data, structured data, SQL querying, and the traditional database models. Our processes have been set up specifically in parallel with the tooling, and that may not necessarily be the optimal process set. And then finally, we have all these point integrations. We have stuff talking to stuff, but what we'd like to get to is the place where lots of stuff talks to lots of stuff in some graceful and easy ways. Okay, so the next set of slides are the HP response, and this is not designed to be a sales pitch. This is hopefully not going to come across that way, but this is our point of view as we sit here today, and kind of a frame in which we're delivering this this message. And by the way, there's maybe some noise in the background going on. So the next part of this is the new style of IT. What do we think the new style of IT is really about? And one of the points that we make here is that 10% of your data is this structured data. It is rows and columns of information and classical record sets, and the ability to say, look up the logical name of a CI equal to Scott, whatever. And that is only a very small part of your world that you live in today. And that as we add to this, we have cloud kinds of data, and we have data coming in from a number of different sources in both hybrid clouds and public clouds and private clouds, and then this unstructured data content is a huge part of the agenda. And the way we look at this is that the data that you're going to be seeing as you go forward is not stuck in this 10% of stuff that's structured rows and columns, but actually human information provided in entirely different ways, and machine data. And when we talk about machine data, we're talking about log files and event transaction data and so forth. And that when we look at data in general, what we're starting to see is that the world has changed, and it's changed fundamentally. So then we as HP have started to build solutions around that to avoid these blind spots and help you move forward. And our strategy is to build out a new style of IT and help you get to this new style of IT with leveraging our big data capabilities, leveraging social interactions, and find new delivery models that meet your consumption needs. So Chuck, is there anything you wanted to add here before I jump on?
Yeah, so thanks, Scott. Well, just a couple of things here. So again, the whole topic around intelligent service desk, and you think of all the information sources that are out there, and even if we have kind of new ways of manipulating that information and gleaning, intelligence and knowledge out of that information. Another part that goes along with this is kind of an idea of connectedness. You have the classic thing of systems being able to process information. But one of the things on the intelligence service desk that we're trying to do and working on inside of HP is just bringing that information together in a more connected fashion. And then another thing specifically on this slide, if we kind of bridge back to that Gartner set of things, is that we just see this whole kind of phenomena of brokering coming up. And you'll see this, in a variety of parts on this slide. So that new IT delivery models. So if IT and can get services delivered via outside vendors, this has been going on for years with outsourcing, or internal mechanisms. There's just a variety of different ways that IT models are changing, and a lot of it is just the time and the duration of these. So you have these classic methods. So I would just submit, when we look at this whole intelligent service desk phenomena and some of the other dimensions to it, you will see this in these overall HP themes, from how stuff is consumed, from the end user perspective, again, mobility, or the agent perspective, how it's delivered, where's that information coming from. So all those things that were frankly on that set of Gartner challenges intersect onto this slide. And again, you'll see some of this coming through in the rest of the presentation.
And I think we're going to drop in next to what HP's ITSM delivery of this is going to look like. And I think there's a polling slide that I wanted to just kind of ask in advance about what the service management delivery options are going to look like.
And for this,
like that polling question just got kicked up, so go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, and for us, we mentioned it in the introduction. So we have Service Manager and we have Service Anywhere. You'll see there, and so Scott's going to talk about this on the next slide. Just want to get the people's kind of thoughts. And actually, there's, we'll let this run just another minute here. Part of hopefully, if anybody's answering the last one of the goals of the presentation today is to help answer that one. So if we ran the polling question again at the end there, hopefully we see a little bit of a different response. So let's go. Do you want to show the responses now, and then we'll real quickly. I would say there's a lot of a reasonable set of responses there, Scott.
Good. That's exactly what I wanted to get. And Chuck's right. The agenda, a primary desired outcome for us, for HP's point of view, which is not the only one in this meeting, but one of our desired outcomes is to make sure that you have a clear picture of what we are trying to do. We want to remove fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We want to make sure you are clear where we are going on the ITSM space, and make sure that you have good data for planning purposes. So with that, I want to take us to our next slide. And this is the ITSM investment themes. And when we talk about investment themes as HP, basically what we're saying is, where is George Kadifa and Meg putting their dollars in the ITSM space? And basically what we're telling you here is that we fully expect and we fully commit to on-premise delivery. We expect to deliver on SaaS, and we expect to deliver the ability for an on-premise and a SaaS hosted ITSM solution to deliver in a hybrid environment. And the example that I want to use there is that I have an IT service manager environment, and perhaps I have a line of business environment for HR as an example, and we'll look at that in my little demo that's coming up here in a few minutes. And the idea is that allowing you to have the delivery vehicles that make the most sense for you. Investing in both, we see the future on both sides of this fence. And so hopefully you will take this and answer the question, you know, what is HP's view around service management, to say both the on-premise service manager and the hosted service anywhere platforms proceed forward into the future. And so what does that mean, right? Where are we going with these? And so this is the kind of the roadmap for Service Anywhere. And Service Anywhere is designed for rapid delivery, for continued capability enhancement and enrichment. And so what you're going to see is this flow of releases into the Service Anywhere exercise throughout the coming year and then beyond, right? We'll continue to invest in change management, in IT analytics, the ability to do asset and contract portfolio inside of Service Anywhere, continue the catalog agendas, and then continue to move forward into procurement and release management on the Service Anywhere side. On the Service Manager, go.
Hey, can I just throw in one thing? So I would assume a lot of people that are on this call are, you know, have followed what has gone on with Service Anywhere. There was really a major release at the end of November, beginning of December last year. And again, Scott will be showing this. So these are kind of what's then coming next. But they're really some very, and you'll see it in the demos, but when we look at this whole intelligent service theme, you will see that really manifest itself in the current versions of the product. And then there are more things that, you know, we can do. So if the previous slide had that powered by Haven, so we have a lot of autonomy capabilities built into the product, and we have, you know, plumbing for Vertica, but you will see some of the things that are enabled by that set of capabilities also, just around, you know, managing data in, you know, new different ways. So just kind of stay tuned. I just wanted to make sure that people realize this is kind of part of a whole sequence, and, you know, the product that we have today is extremely, it looks very nice in demos, and we'll be seeing that as we go forward.
Okay, so then on the Service Manager side, we are continuing to invest in service management, and I wanted to call out, there's a lot of investment in Service Manager, a lot of investment on Service Anywhere. In fact, HP has provided incremental funding to the product teams for both Service Anywhere and Service Manager, because we want to make sure that you get the capabilities you need. And so one of the big capabilities we're looking at is this ITIL integration. And ITIL is our intelligent search engine capability, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But the idea is that we're investing in Service Manager, and a key tenet I want you to take away from this meeting is that we are elevating and maturing both the Service Anywhere product and the Service Manager product, and as we identify capabilities in one that are available or relevant to the other delivery model, we'll transfer those and make them available. And ITIL as an integration capability is one of those examples, and we'll talk about that further. Case Exchange here is part of this agenda to talk about the ability to exchange information between different service desks and start to improve the relationship of the service broker, and so forth. So lots of other things coming. The purpose of this section is not about Service Manager or Service Anywhere particularly, but just to give you an idea that we are investing heavily. Both products make a future, have a future in front of them. And one last thing on Service Manager is that the things you're about to see in my demo sessions are really based around and based on the existing Service Anywhere product. But what I want you to envision is if you have those capabilities in the Intelligent Service Desk on premise in Service Manager, how could you leverage that? How could you take advantage of that and and don't feel like you have to go to a hosted SaaS offering to get the things we're about to look at. That makes sense? Chuck, anything you wanted to add there?
No, that's good, Scott. I'll let you keep on going.
Okay, so next is the vision of an intelligence service desk. And now I'm really talking about the agenda point of our meeting. I'll go through some examples, but what I thought I'd do here is a simple demo, right? And hopefully my demo is going to work perfectly, and you guys all know how this goes. There's often times of intense stress when you do demos. So let me get to the link where I talk about my demo. What I would like to do is show you a portal on Service Anywhere, and you'll see various segments that a user could select. And our entire idea here is to make the user, the end user, the casual user, the self-service user, as empowered as we possibly can, and offload stress from IT so that they can deliver service more effectively. And one of the examples that I wanted to kind of give you here is just envision this use case of a human resources portal. And so if I have a human resources portal, I would like to say, here are a series of offerings that my user can consume for HR. And imagine this on a hosted environment that removes the stress of this IT delivery from core IT, and lets it happen in a lighter weight solution. Now, having said that, what I want to do is just say, let's look at how a user might be able to take advantage of this. And so I might want to say, I would like to find out how to do mobile phone email. And you'll notice that the system will automatically show me reference information based on what I typed. And by the way, note that, as we talked about in the intro, and hopefully that's now starting to make some sense, I didn't have to spell mobile phone correctly. The system said, by the way, that's not the way you spell mobile, but I still made an intelligent guess about what you meant. And then we could then say, I want to get an email on my mobile phone. I can then click on the IT article about how to get this capability on my phone, and I could say, oh, well, here's all the information I need. I could have a video. In fact, in this particular case, I have 2 videos and so forth. I also have this ability to say, oh, I couldn't find what I was looking for. Show me more. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, but at this point, what I want you to see is that empowering this user community to submit, to find information they need in meaningful ways is a huge trend for the intelligence service desk. I'm going to put that away, put it back over there, and then I'm going to go and relaunch my Prezzo, and then I should be able to press on. Press on like Lee nails. And so the first part of this intelligence service desk that we want to talk about is the availability of information. And we in HP are really invested here. We're focused here. Those of you that have been thinking about the autonomy acquisition, there was a lot of news about that thing and how it happened and whatever. The point was we invested because we think that availability of information is huge going forward. So what does that mean to you? All right, and so we talk here, those of you that were at Discover may remember the Kevin Bacon kickoff last year in Las Vegas about the data and the data growth and the amount of data that is coming at us in IT. And fundamentally, the point here is that there's just huge amounts of data. And then managing that data becomes a huge exercise. So here
hey, Scott, can I
yes,
just jump in real quick? Because there's a question that came up, and it's a real good time to answer it. And it was, what does ITIL stand for? And it is Intelligent Data Operating layer. So this is one of the kind of the key components of that set of autonomy technologies that we have deeply embedded inside of Service Anywhere. So it's kind of core to what that platform brings. But again, it's part of the autonomy suite. So that's the A in Haven, and the ITIL is intelligent data operating layer. And so all the stuff that Scott's talking about right now and being able to manipulate that intelligently is extract meaning and act on that is based off of those capabilities.
Right, and then to put a little finer point on it, if you think about the issues that we deal with in service management today, many of them are related to how do I search 1 million CIs? How do I create a change for 1 million, for 1.5 million CIs with 800,000 tasks I need to complete? And this huge amount of information impacts us every day. And if you think about, well, how do I build reports? And oh, by the way, I have to build my reports on an external reporting system so I don't impact my production, and so forth. And when we think about the Intelligent Service Desk, these are the directions we're moving in so that those tool-related problems and those tool-related problems related to data disappear from your space, and we make you more productive and make your users more productive. So the next thing, how can I use big data? What are the benefits? I can reduce the number of tickets into IT because I'm empowering the end users. I can identify issues faster and do more proactive response than reactive response. I can do knowledge management, and I can solve root causes rather than spending all my time doing incident management reactively. I can connect IT to the business in a different conversation, and I can support the business's needs without having them have to know IT. And basically, I want to improve your quality of service delivery. That's ultimately the agenda that we want to talk through here. Some other elements that come in a conversation you may not have thought about as you're dealing with large amounts of data. What are the governance rules that comply to this, right? What are the security requirements that are based around your governments? How do I look at data in one discipline and use it in another? For example, how can I look at all my event monitoring data from the business service management stack and understand and correlate that data with my service delivery and my ticketing engines and my change management systems? And hey, I did these changes and those monitoring events occurred, and now tying those pieces together becomes much more powerful and much more effective, and I can drift the conversation up out of the technical layers and get the right information to the C-level, to the director levels and above as appropriate, right? And then I can leverage the information in new and more intelligent ways. We talk often about knowledge management, but what else is there in terms of dealing with information? And one of my little survey questions, and I don't remember if I submitted it, was this topic around, is knowledge management the only application of the information management that you guys care about?
And we
do
launch
have
that
poll. Question on KM, sorry. We could, let's just actually launch the next
okay,
question.
Here it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you only get to answer one, and you could see how you could have, this, you could have more, it'd be nice to be able to check more than one, but.
Yeah, because the reason we put this polling question in it is knowledge management is very interesting, and it is a low-hanging fruit capability to allow IT to be more productive. And I think the majority of my customers are actually using it in some level. But I wanted to do two things: tell you that it is valuable and you should be looking at it if you haven't. And number two, it is not the only implementation of of big data or the ability to look at information, and I want to make sure that we don't hang up there that, oh, big data means knowledge management, because that's not what we really want you to take away. Okay, are you showing the poll results?
They just came up.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily surprised by that. You know, the one other question would have been, you know, if people are using it for kind of end user self-service and also for agents, and you know, the combination. But anyhow, keep on going.
Okay. Okay, so the next part of my discussion is going to be about the target consumer for the casual user. And what we want to look at here is how can we have these casual users, and I know some people don't necessarily like that terminology, but the end user, the self-service user, the user that doesn't know how IT thinks and doesn't want to and doesn't need to. How do we empower that user as we move forward? And so what we'll see here in this slide is a number of different ways that we are empowering this employee self-service. And in our example, we'll be looking at Service Anywhere. Understand that, like I said before, these things are coming for on-premise. Understand that's happening. And then what does that mean to have an intuitive and integrated self-service? What kinds of things might my user be able to do? Can I have a social capability around the ability to interact and leverage the social dynamics? And what does that mean? And how can I have a service focus for this end user, and how can I help them move forward? So what I wanted to do is try to show you a few examples of this in my demo. And let's see, I want to look at this next slide. We want to look at how to give you some proactive delivery, look at some sourcing of multimedia and other information, and help you mine social content and leverage other individuals as we're working on service delivery. So let me now move back to my demo thing. Right. And so here what I want to do is fill that screen. There you go. Hopefully everyone can see this. So the first thing, you saw me previously put in a request to say, I would like to know about mobile phone and how to get email on my mobile phone. I have an ability, I've already clicked it, but just to show you what would happen, I can click this and I can rate this response. And as I rate the response, I can now inflate its value and increase its value, move it up the stack, and have it shown more often. And the ones that don't have ratings move down the visibility list and show up less frequently. But one of the things that comes out of this, I look at this and I say, oh, well, wait a minute. Now this, wow, this is craziness. I could maybe do this. And you know, there's a demo here and there's a video, and okay, that's all cool. Yeah, I'm very nervous about that. So what I would like to do is I would like to ask a friend for some assistance and see if anyone has any insights that could help me. And so let's see, do I need a FARIA? Oh, wait. And so notice, and I could have kept typing, but notice what happened here. The system said, oh, I see what you're asking, and before you even know what you need to ask, I'm going to tell you what you should be asking. And hopefully I get this right, and if not, you can keep typing and find more information. But what we can do here is, do I need to install a FARIA to get a mobile email? And then I see a response from David, and he says, do I need it on email, rather not install it? Oh, wait a minute. It looks like I need to have some kind of an exception. And then if I click on this link, what I can find is a response that would help me, and I could go and kick off this exception waiver process. And before I did that, I wanted to show you a couple more things, right? I could actually, as an end user, I could help others with questions. And so I've said, okay, all of this made perfect sense to me. I could ask my friends. I could go in and I could help friends with their questions. And so here are some questions that is currently being asked. Maybe I know a piece of information here. There are some hot questions out here that we as a team perhaps would like to respond to. And then here are some examples where, for example, Steve asked me this question, or asked this question to the community, and then I saw that, and I happened to know an answer, and I responded to Steve and gave him his response. And now that information, that social collaboration between the user communities is now offloading work from the IT teams, removing calls from the service desk, and allowing you and the service delivery teams to focus on service delivery improvements, focus on meeting your requirements, and help you move forward. The last thing I wanted to show you here on the self-service, and there's a lot of other stuff here, and actually I'll show you two things. Number one, I wanted to show you kind of my space. This is the stuff for Scott. I have 2 service requests, and I have some service requests. I have a support request, service requests. I have some questions. I have some approvals I'm expected to process, and so forth. And notice that the system is showing me all this information across the delivery engine, the various places I might be expected to interact and ask questions. And so the last little thing I'll show you on self-service is that I would like to request support. And I looked at that whole thing, and I've said, okay, so I have an issue with dropped support, dropped calls, and wireless issues. Right, and my agenda is simply to ask a set of basic questions, and the system says, oh, wait a minute, report mobile phone email connection problems. And it automatically pulled up the content for me and said, by the way, if this is your issue, please click here. And I do. And it says, okay, great. Now I have some base questions for you. And the important thing here is that I didn't need to know to look in the category called email and phone problems, connection problems. The system did that work for me. So then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, okay, so the mobile device is my Android phone that I have installed Afaria, and that connectivity has worked in the past. It automatically pre-populated information, and then I did this last little step to say, this issue disrupts my work, and then I can submit that. And I'm basically done. And the whole idea is I want to make this consumable and fast for this self-service user. Okay, so that
hey, Scott, before we just kind of go back in, a handful of questions have come up, and I know we got like about 35 minutes left. We'll take a couple questions here, and feel free to keep on sending them in. There's kind of a classic question, or what are the sources of KM data? And I would say one of the things when we look at historic kind of perspectives there, you would have packages, and we've provided some of these, and there are other people that have them out in the industry that would be like self-help around self-service help for spreadsheets and PC issues and other things like that. When we look at like the system here, you could take those knowledge type sources, but also there's just kind of a more intelligent way that it's warning the information as it goes. And Scott was showing all the end user dimensions to this, but then there's also the power of how we're manipulating the information there is also manifests itself as clearly, if not more clearly, even on the agent side. But Scott, so there's a question. The webinar is actually scheduled for 90 minutes, so we'll keep on going there. And if people have to drop off, catch the last 30 minutes as we go on. And then there's also a question about ITIL handling different types of sources, and the answer to that is yes. Autonomy, or the ITIL engine there, that's one of the powers in that whole kind of set of unstructured data. Now, do you need all that to run a help desk or a service desk? Not necessarily, but 5 years from now, we might, our kind of sources of knowledge might expand. So Scott, just curious, if you want to add some more comments just around knowledge management sources, ITIL sources, and things like that.
Yeah, so the primary ones that we look at most of the time for knowledge management data today are around my tickets, my changes, my operational records. Better use story there. Look at my operational data and look at my ticket information, and where it's appropriate, allow users to find it quickly and efficiently based on the unstructured text, right? And maybe I have SharePoint in there, or maybe I have autonomy, right? I have a ticket around autonomy, and I would like to know what I can do with it. Maybe I have changes that have been made to particular servers, or there was text in the change record, and I want to find the text. That's really the secret to ITIL. So look in my operational records. The next, as you pointed out, was look for packaged information that is already delivered from various suppliers and vendors. Their content packs is the typical naming convention from KBI and others. And then the third primary source of data for knowledge management is going to be trolling other data sources. So for example, I would link my search engine to Microsoft, for example. Maybe I want to allow my users to search into Microsoft's website and find information there, or link it to other sources of information, so I don't have to hold and control and manage the data. I can just point to other locations and get the information more cleanly and efficiently. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
helpful?
That's good. Clyde, good.
Okay,
agents.
So the next part of this interesting little topic, and this is now, we're going to look at we're going to look at Service Anywhere, and we're going to also look at some use cases in service management. But I wanted to start with a slide here that talks about empowering the IT agent. And so a couple of things that we are looking at, a couple of key problems that illustrate the intelligent service desk direction is that when I do categorization, whether it's the end user, the self-service user, the service desk agent, the resolver agent, whoever it is, those people are often making intelligent subject matter expert guesses in many cases about what a categorization for an issue should be. And more importantly, Steve Anderson, who's listening on the call with us here, actually pointed out something that's equally important. This idea of making a subject matter expert guess around assignment and categorization are both very interesting today. And one of the key topics we encounter is that we often get it wrong. And so we are looking at how could I take they call them lakes of data. And in this discussion, the lake of data is all your incident information. Look at that lake and find out what are the categories that have been used historically. And then the next part of that is going to be how could I populate in advance a new set of categories and a new set of assignment groups where my system gives me a list that I can then look at and set my processes accordingly. And then finally, how could I, as an agent, how could I do auto-categorization or auto-assignment based on the text in a record, in an operational record? A call comes in the service desk, and they populate it, and it says, okay, we think that this issue, based on the idle technologies and other big data capabilities, the Haven stuff, could then look and say, oh, well, you might think this is network, but in fact, based on history, this is really an IP address related topic, and so we're going to route it accordingly. So that is an example of how the intelligent service desk can make you more efficient and effective, especially at the front line. The next big topic is one that I've heard a billion times in my career here, and that is, I would love to do problem management, but I don't know where to start, right? If I knew where the problems were, then I would just do a problem fix and the problem would go away, but I don't. So what we're looking at is ways to leverage the Haven capabilities to look at the lake of incident records and identify for you the areas that appear as potential problem candidates. And our agenda then would be to present to you a map, and you see a little representation here. This is probably not a good one, but showing you that more of my issues appear to be related to login, and fewer of them are related to VPN, as an example. And therefore, perhaps login issues deserve some problem management research. So this is one of those targets we see as a huge advantage. These are things that we're working on, but hopefully you can see the future of the intelligent service desk is to give you this kind of information in meaningful ways. Okay, and so then I wanted to go back, and I want to show you a little more demo, just because I can, and I will hopefully get this right. So now I am an agent. I am me, Scott Knox, and I am now going to look at the list of service requests that are in my system, and there's a number of them, and I have done a filter on the issues, all the requested issues. I'm in this discussion and incident resolver. And so I've created a filter to say only the ones for me, because I want it to be clean and meaningful for you as a consumer of this presentation. But notice that I could go and filter based on priority. I could filter based on next target time. I could change these filters and so forth. And the UI has been modernized to help me move forward. But in this particular case, what I wanted to look at is this topic around report a mobile email connection problem. So I'm going to click on that one, and it is going to show me a bit of information about this particular ticket. And this is a new and modern UI. We are using breadcrumbing at the top to tell me where I'm at, what needs to happen, provide guidance about what the next steps are, lots of other things, lots of classic service management stuff that you would all expect. But the thing I really wanted to point out, there are two topics in this user population that I want to help you see, just so we can start to think about what an intelligent service desk would give me in the future. The first of those things is this suggested solutions issue. And I can see here report mobile phone email connection problems. These are requests. If I scroll and I say, nah, let's see what I'm looking for. These are the top 3. Now, if that wasn't what I was looking for, let's see if I have more. So I click on more, and the system brings up a list, and I can go down here, and I can say, well, wait a minute now. What happened? I had some requests, but then all of a sudden I'm seeing articles. And so now maybe these articles are important to me. And the point is, I'm getting information from multiple sources and displaying it in one point to make your agents more effective. I don't have to go look here, look there, know where to look to make my intelligent service desk more productive. So in this particular case, I've got some text that I would like to find. And so I would like to look for a particular example. So I'm going to look for something that says CONECT issues BLACKDRR FAQ. All right, so a couple of things. First off, notice that as I'm trying to find information about my BlackBerry, I knew that there was an FAQ, or I thought there was an FAQ thing out there somewhere, but that's all I knew about. And the first thing I want you to notice is the auto-correct and spelling correct capability that the system is delivering for me here. So I put BlackBerry, and it knew, well, that's probably not really what you were looking for. But if I do the search now, what I'll start to see here is that there is an FAQ. It is this one, and it has the information that I needed in a quick and more effective delivery vehicle. And I could now pull this article up. I could, note this link here. I could copy the link to the knowledge article, or in this case to this FAQ, directly into the resolution, which then automatically will get passed to the end user without a whole bunch of, save this thing and go find it and capture it and so forth. Let the intelligent search engine find the stuff for me. Okay, that's all making sense? Yep.
Oh, it does make sense. I think this stuff is beautiful, and you said automagically. So one of the esteemed members of the community, Sean Karen, has a comment about, the best point of service anywhere is user gets autonomy power from the cloud. And I agree with that, but I don't say it's the best point. What I really like is that we're doing things here that are leveraging that technology without the user or the agents having to worry about it. It's just smarter ways of presenting information to people. And anyhow, if you want to throw in any other comments there, that'd be great. But I just
no, that was good. That was good. Then the next thing, the last thing I want to show you on the agent thing. We talked a little bit about problem management. We can worry about that later. But one of the things that Steve is kind of the genius in this crowd, said, make sure you show them how the related records functionality works, because that's powerful. And so he said, this request depends on something, right? So I have this reported phone connection problem. I've now attached, I don't know if you saw me do it, but I attached into in here in the resolution field, I have the link to the knowledge document. I then went down to the related records thing, and I said, okay, so let's add a request here. And what I want to show is that the system automatically, based on a global search, what they're calling in Service Anywhere a global search. By the way, in Service Manager, we have a global search capability. It's not this one. It's not quite as clean and friendly and wonderful, but there is a global search in Service Manager you can leverage. But the thing that I wanted to get to, if I scroll down here, the system found, based on the information in the ticket, some candidates for related records. And notice that what it showed me is that a request, a change, an incident are all visible to me, and the system found what I potentially needed in a graceful way. Okay, and so now I can add one of these, I can pick on one and carry it on, but at the end of the day, this was the gist of my service desk, or sorry, intelligent service delivery agent, IT agent demo that I wanted to share with you.
And
so,
Scott, I would, having been part of a lot of Service Anywhere demos and including at like industry events, the couple things that Scott just showed here, people over the years have seen lots and lots of demos, from lots and lots of vendors, and they're, it can just get numbing after a while. But this whole related records and the way that the knowledge is getting, or information is getting manipulated behind the scenes to present the best information, it's really stuff that we can do leveraging those autonomy type capabilities that no other platform out there can do. So it's really, this is great stuff, and people that have seen so many demos that are almost dulled by you know, the stuff after years, they can see it, and so hopefully people are seeing it here also. I think it's beautiful, Scott.
Thank you. I think so too, and understand that this big data trend, HP is leading the marketplace in this discipline, and we have a lot of technologies in our big data play, and we'll give you some links you can go look at. But big data could talk about, we could have structured big data with Verity. We could have unstructured big data with autonomy. We could have big data in data logs. We could have big data in a number of places, and our agenda is to give that to you. And so as you're thinking about your roadmaps and you're thinking about what your service delivery looks like in the future, keep this topic in mind and make sure you talk to us and that we give you all the necessary information to help you move forward. Okay, now I'm running out of time as usual because I have that ability to talk. I'm good at talking. I don't necessarily say I talk well, but I talk a lot. and so you cannot get away from me. If I'm doing a presentation on futures with anybody, I will put automation on the slides for you moving forward. Just because I believe the best value for any of my customer community is going to be find a way to leverage automation. And automation could include the operations orchestration, server automation. It could include all our auto discovery capabilities and so forth. And find ways to leverage automation. And so I'm going to give you just a little number of examples based on the automation people, and I don't know if Vikram joined our call, but I really appreciate his work here. This is a case where this Air France company leveraged automation in cloud CSA, cloud server automation, cloud service automation, I should say, and a data center automation, OO, and other toolings. And what I'm going to show you is that they found real benefit from doing automation. And I am absolutely convinced that you can find similar power in automation. And if you're not using automation, please talk to us and let us help you, because you can be a IT hero in minutes with automation. Okay. So basically, this point of this slide, there's two primary ones. One is that as you move throughout the Gartner maturity model, no matter where you are, there are capabilities for you to deliver automation in meaningful ways, and that the higher in the curve you go, the more automation empowers you and the more capabilities you have. The next part of, oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong place. There we go. Back over there. The next part of this is that in automation, content is king. I heard somebody say that the other day. I loved it. So content is king basically says, can I give you automation flows that you can basically use out of the box or streamline very simply? And yes, you'll see here that HP offers more than 5,000 flows to automate process and make them more effective against tooling that is classic IT tools, right? Microsoft and Apache and Java and whatever. You guys can read slides. But the point is, not only do we provide you tooling, we provide you content to help empower you and help you move forward. Okay, I'm gaining on the end. We're almost there, getting there. We have a roadmap to get to the end. Okay, this doesn't really show me how to get to the end, but it does actually show some of the use cases that are most commonly used for automation. The closed-loop incident management option is where I have a ticket, an issue discovered by monitoring, OM, OMI, other site scope monitors, whatever. They pass information to SM sees it, creates an incident, and then if I've done the footwork in advance, I can take that event and turn it into or deliver a correction and mitigation via my operations orchestration or other tooling and automatically close the event. There are a number of other examples. Security ops, I mentioned security is a big thing. I could also do a lot of work around the DevOps agenda where I have stuff in service management and I want to interact service management with my development exercises, my ALM products, and so forth. Link those pieces together and do automatic automatic delivery, deployment, and so forth.
Hey, Scott.
Here are some.
I know we're just running out of time, but a couple things on that other one. For people that are around the HP ecosystem have heard of CLIP before, so that the closed loop incident, it's really the automation of the break-fix sequence. So we're actually you'll see more automated break-fix going forward. And I've just mentioned on DevOps, this idea has been around, and kind of you had the first wave of it, kind of crashed, and then you didn't hear anything about it for a while. But there's another wave coming, and I just think it goes along with automation. So very pertinent, and more automation being adopted in the data centers, and probably more kind of standardization around the release management discipline, which has been very unstructured over the years. But as release management becomes more disciplined, and then you have more automation on deploying whatever that would be constituted as a release, all of a sudden another wave of DevOps is coming. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, thank you. And there's lots of other places automation can help us, right? Here's a list. Just imagine there's lots of other places that automation helps us move forward. Here are some simple ROI exercises. One of the customers in Australia that I talked with, they actually talked about, they didn't talk about cost savings when they talked to their management about how automation or empowering the end user or intelligent service desk. They didn't talk about cost savings because it didn't resonate with the management. Cost savings is interesting, and most people care, but they don't really think that way in many IT orgs. They actually talked about cost avoidance. And then the point became, if I avoid costs in certain areas, I can then spend that same budget on other things to deliver more value to the business. And that kind of message was helpful for this particular customer who had done a bunch of work on automation. Basically, they spent 1.2 FTEs for a year and realized an ongoing 6 FTEs per year of cost avoidance. And then they showed that to management. They said, well, do more and hurry up about it, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, please do a good job, and so you can do more good work. Okay. But the point here is that there is value to doing automation. You can see these kind of ROI statistics, and if you have any need for this kind of data, don't hesitate to let us know. Let your sales teams know. Let us know. We are happy to help you find these ROI statements and topics. We are also happy to connect you with customers that are realizing these kind of values, whether it's in the Intelligent Service Desk agenda, whether it's in service management in general, whether it's automation. Don't hesitate. Ask us. We can get you the people to talk to.
Scott, I thought you were channeling your inner Jake or Elwood almost there on that FTE discussion. So
there we go. Okay, so then Chuck told me he would beat me if I didn't say kind of a call to action or what can you do next. And so we thought about this quite a lot and said, what are the 3 things you should, sorry, that was wrong, you could take away from this Prezzo and execute on immediately. And so our thinking was, try Service Anywhere, right? Take a look at the product. There are so many cool and innovative capabilities in Service Anywhere, and once you're in using it and trying it, you will start to understand how it could be powerful for you on-premise or SaaS delivery. next, come to Discover and visit us in Las Vegas and get a feel for this. We have NDA booths. We would love to show you some of these features. And if you're already doing some of these things and you want to work with us to present at Discover, let us know. And then finally, connect to our ITSM blog. I'm going to blog this content as soon as I can find a way to get it written in a blog format. But there is a lot of content on the ITSM blog that you could take advantage of immediately.
Hey, Scott.
So,
one thing, like just search on ITSM blog. I think it's typically the first thing that comes up because if you do follow that URL, you'll end up on our hp.com product pages or solution page for ITSM. But if you did go/ITSM blog, you'll end up at the right spot. And there was actually a question on what's Pronk, and it's really just another, it's kind of like the hipper HP digital channel. So we're putting our SaaS products out on this, and so it's HP, but we're trying to do something a little bit different there, and so a little bit less blue and a little bit more other colors.
Okay. And so I am now basically done yapping, and what I wanted to do is a couple things. I will take us to our final slide. Basically, this is where can I go for more information. This will all be recorded and available to you. There's links that you can get to. We will be doing some follow-up information back to the visit community, but that will conclude my formal pass through the content. We now have a couple of minutes, I think, for questions and answers, and we can certainly get the questions on the table. Chuck, is there anything you wanted to finish with?
No, this is all good. I would say, that ITSM blog, we typically have promotion of any of the events or new releases. I'll be out talking to people and they really haven't heard about a new release yet or something, and as that comes out, we'll have posts on that, but then we'll also have posts about, events and, thinking of things like, more digital channels. We do have a Twitter feed, which is HPITSM, so if you follow that, you also get, pointers and links to events and other news. So, Scott, I do have a handful of questions here. Really kind of classic one that I was going to say for you is, okay, Service Manager is going to be integrating with Autonomy ITIL. Will that mean the customer needs to have ITIL on-premise? And I was going to let you take that, and I have kind of a little add-on if you don't cover it, but I'll let you take it first.
So we are working on the delivery vehicles as we speak. For SM, it will be an on-premise version of ITIL is the current strategy. We are also looking at options where you could put ITIL in the cloud. There was a recent discussion or a recent article about HP's approach to services for ITIL and other parts of the Haven platform. But currently the strategy is an on-premise ITIL to go with your on-premise SM, or a hosted ITIL capability, or ITIL as a fundamental part of Service Anywhere.
And the one thing I was going to add to that is on one of the very, very first slides, and we didn't talk about it, it was like was the idea around a new deployment manager that's coming. We were actually looking at virtual appliances and things along that. So when that is part of it, this new deployment manager will actually, hide, a variety of kind of the issues of bringing on one more, piece of software. So, Scott, I'm not sure if you want to throw anything else about the deployment manager in there or not.
Yeah, so that's a good point. The whole idea is that we, on the service management on-premise side, are sprinting to find ways to reduce the complexity and cost that you have to manage in infrastructure and tooling capabilities, both in terms of Service Manager in its foundational component, but also in related products. How can you integrate to UCMDB? How can you, link UD, UCMDB, SM, and DSM together? How could you do AM and SM? How do all those pieces work? And Chuck's point about deployment manager is accurate. We are building out capabilities to have a deployment manager that says, tell me the products you want to deploy, tell me where you want these things to land, and I will lay down for you the components configured for the number of users you want to support and take all the complexity out of that engagement. And the same thing is true, interestingly, for patch management. We're working on how to make, okay, I have a new patch or I have a new content pack. How can I deliver that more quickly and effectively for you? Ask a couple questions, lay it down, avoid complexity and risk.
Then there's another question here, and we're almost at the bottom of the hour. To really, again, appreciate people's time, and always I talk to Scott all the time, and he entertains me. So I hope this has been informative in a good sort of way. Also, but hey, here's a question which is really iconic, and I'm going to pose it to Scott because sometimes I get what is currently shipping and what comes next a little bit mixed up. But we're looking at like some of those Service Anywhere capabilities, and the question is, can the system perform anytime real correlation of subjects? Many users are asking the same question because there's some kind of ongoing service outage. And then here I'll add on another one, because I know we've talked about this, is like all of a sudden there's a fix to that. So somebody starts, it could be an agent took an incident and they start typing something in, and the system would automatically start presenting like, hey, lots of other people are dealing with this, and this is the thing that seems to be the cause or the fix that helps with that. But anyhow, Scott, if you want to comment on that whole scenario, because I know it's one that we like to talk about and discuss.
Yeah, there are a lot of changes, and given that we're almost out of time, I'm going to avoid the technical details and just say yes. Our agenda is to provide new mechanisms to make information available to the agents more effectively. You saw some examples in the Service Anywhere product line demos about how we're doing it there. Those capabilities and similar capabilities are coming into on-premise so that we have better ways to inform agents of issues that are happening, hot news, new tickets, resolutions that have been found, and so forth. Those capabilities are on their way.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. And just again, encourage people, if they haven't taken a look at Service Anywhere yet, to get their 30-day trial of that. And if you run out of time, I bet you we'll even give you another 30 days. But you'll be able to see a lot of this stuff in action. And hey, Vivid, we are huge fans of the Vivid ecosystem. We have more web events coming through Vivid, so follow Vivid and the HP sites for that. We're actually also planning on doing a couple deep dives, with Vivid at Discover. So another reason to come to Discover, not only see what the latest greatest stuff is, but you'll have an opportunity to participate in a couple deep dive areas. And then again, follow us on the HP ITSM blog. You'll see Scott out there and myself. And also, as kind of this whole digital world continues to evolve, if you want the latest breaking news, you can see that on the Twitter feed. So thanks, everybody, for your time today, and look forward to talking to you soon.